Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good, Lindsay. How are you?
Good, good. What's going on today?
Not too much, not too much. Lindsay, how often are you around little kids?
Not super often, Michelle. I mean, my niece is growing up now. I think she's 11 now. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So she's not really a little kid anymore.
I can't,
So,
yeah, because
yeah.
my nephew and your niece are pretty much the same age. Yeah, my
Yeah.
nephew is about to be 12. It's
Oh,
scary, right? It
wow.
goes fast.
Yeah. So, in terms of little kids, I have my niece and nephew on the other side. I think they are like 3 and 6, something like that, so that's the closest thing for me. What about you, Michelle? We know you have young kids,
I'm
right?
around them all the time, literally all the time.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about this is a fun episode. We're going to talk about some common expressions that parents or any adults use with children. And guys, if you're thinking, "Oh, I'm not around little kids that much, I should switch to the next episode." Stay
Stop.
here because this is really useful even if you don't have kids. I mean, you're going
Yeah.
to hear these out and about in pop culture when you watch TV shows.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you're gonna be like, also, you might have a niece or a nephew, you might have a friend who has kids. Um,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
these are just really, I mean, even like at work. I mean,
Yeah.
if your coworker is talking about their kids, these are just really useful
Mhm.
to know. And these are what we're going to teach. They're kind of cliches that you're going to hear.
Yeah.
So, meaning you're going to hear them a lot. This
Mhm.
is not just random things. These are very commonly known. So it's
Yeah,
really good
for
to
sure.
know. And also we are going to talk about our opinions of these
Okay.
and
Yeah.
how they might vary culturally. So it's going to be interesting.
I love that. And some of these, maybe specifically 1 or 2, are sometimes used kind of facetiously
Yeah.
by adults between adults, right?
Right.
And we'll point out the ones that are, and we'll see if we agree on that, Michelle. So there's a lot here for everyone, whether you have kids, whether you're an aunt
Yes.
or an uncle, or your friends have kids, or whether you're just having some banter with another adult. Sometimes some
Exactly.
of these you would pull out. But Michelle, before we get into it, where can our listeners go if they want to see real time transcripts? What's the best option?
Okay, awesome. So go on over and listen. Well, to get real time transcripts, you want to get our app, right, Lindsay?
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's at allearsenglish.com/app.
App.
There's an iOS and an Android version. And when you become a premium member, you get to see real time transcripts of the episodes. You get to save words, tap on them to see the definition, and create your personal power list. All right. So we teach a lot of vocabulary on this show every day, and we don't want you to get left behind when it comes to some of these words. So save them, become a premium member, and save them in your system. Okay. Love it.
Yep. Go to allearsenglish.com/app. APP. So let's go through these. And this came to my mind because I always hear this. You ever hear this? Sharing is caring.
Yeah, well, this is the one that I was thinking that adult
Yes.
to adult, we do use this, so, like,
Yes.
in a facetious, a funny kind of way, right?
Right. It's
But
so true. It's
yeah,
basically, yeah, when a kid doesn't wanna share, you
yeah.
say, "Let Timmy use the dinosaur next. Sharing is caring."
Yeah, so that's the most obvious way, the most, like, on, like, face value way to use it with a kid, right? But then, maybe if you're out to lunch with your
Yes.
coworker and you ordered a thing of salsa, chips and salsa. People love chips and
Yes.
salsa, but you ordered it and you're like, "Here you go, sharing is caring." Something like that.
Exactly. Or if you're out with your close friend and they have french fries and you grab one and you could joke and you say,
Yes.
"Sharing is caring," right?
Exactly. So I love that this is a multidimensional phrase, right?
Yeah,
But
this is
you're
good.
being a little jokey when you're saying that with an adult, right? You know that this
Right.
phrase is really meant for kids, but you're using it at that level with an adult. Super interesting.
Yeah, right? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So, I mean, Lindsay, what do you think about this? I mean, as a parent, I'm always thinking about, oh, if a kid comes over and they want to share with my kid or they want to play with their toys, and there's all these philosophies. It's like you want to teach the kids to share, but at the same time, you don't want to force them to share everything
That's a good
because
question. Yeah.
you don't want to. They should know that some things are theirs,
Yeah, you
right?
don't want them to become a doormat, right? We
Right.
talked about the phrase doormat on the show maybe a few years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting. I don't know how I would navigate that, Michelle. I mean,
I never know what to do, and I think
May-
sometimes parents are trying to put on shows for each other, right? So it's like sometimes I'll want to act a certain way, but I feel like I have to show the other parents that I'm trying to
uh,
teach my kid to share, when sometimes I really just wanna be like, "No, like, he should be able to play with that
Yeah,
longer."
maybe I would ask the kid how they feel about sharing. Do they feel like how does it feel to share? And when do you feel like you shared too much or too little? Like
Right.
let them sort of develop an inner compass a bit more outside of what society expects them to do,
Right.
right? I don't know. That's what
Right.
I would start doing is just asking a lot of
Right.
questions about how you feel.
Yeah, or I
Yeah.
might say, "How much longer do you wanna play with this?" Or
Yeah,
something like
interesting.
that, but yeah, it's I mean, I planned this episode maybe last week, and even just last night, I was, at a friend's house, and my daughter was my daughter's 3 and her daughter's 1, so
Okay.
mine just kinda plows through.
Take
Uh
advantage. Yeah.
yeah, so I have to
That's funny.
figure out what to do. So, but that's one. And again, guys, this is not just for those who have kids.
Yeah.
This one you're going to hear a lot, and I think the next one as well can be
Yeah.
used a
Yeah.
lot. So, what is
Mhm.
this one?
Okay, so use your words, right? So when a kid gets upset and they just yell and they scream and they cry, a parent might say this. I know my mom said this all the time to me,
Mm,
right? Okay, try to calm down, use your words,
yeah,
right? Trying to get the kid to articulate what they're feeling and not go to physical, like, hitting, kicking, biting, punching, screaming,
yeah, the screaming.
the more childish ways of acting, right? Um,
Right. Yeah, and I mean, you might hear an adult just say
my,
this, like, kind of as
mhm,
a joke. I mean, if they're
yeah.
maybe even if they're not upset, even if they're kind of having trouble, explaining what they wanna say, kinda how I am now. No, just joking. Somebody might just
Use
say,
your
"Okay,
words,
use your words,"
Michelle.
right? Use your words. So it can be
Yeah.
used with adults as well, but
Yeah.
again, in kind of a sarcastic, fun, lighthearted way, not in the same
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, if an
Um,
adult is
yeah,
really upset, I would be careful saying this
yes.
to someone who's
Not
really
if they're
upset and they're,
really
like,
upset.
punching a wall or
Yeah,
something.
no, no,
You
no,
might make
that's
them
not
more
gonna
upset
help.
if you
Much more upset.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there
it's
may be a place for that between adults, yes. Yeah.
right. That would be like, if somebody says calm down when you're upset, and that's
Mm.
always the worst thing you
Mhm.
can say, right?
Trigger, big time trigger, right? Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
exactly. But with kids, I mean, I've also I don't like saying this to my kids. Sometimes it's tempting
Uh,
because you just when I say use your words, but I don't, because what I'm always trying to figure out
yeah.
what's the best answer, but like that they don't always have the words. They're kids, right? So you have to more
Yeah.
so like actually model it for them. So kind of
That's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so that's a potential candidate between adults, but certainly if you have, like you said, nieces or nephews or kids or parent or friends' kids, you'll hear this for sure. What else, Michelle?
And this is good. Say and then something. Say
Okay.
please, say excuse me, say thank you, say you're sorry.
Yeah. And this one I would say we really don't, I would never say this to an
An
adult.
adult. Say please.
Right. No, I would not like we're ordering in a restaurant with no, you would never say that to another adult if they didn't say, can I please have a cocktail? You wouldn't, or didn't say please. No, just don't use that with an adult, right, Michelle?
No, 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 no. But you could say, "Oh wow, look at that beautiful gift. Say thank you." Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, just manners.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And I always say you can never say thank you often enough. You can
Yeah.
never say too many thank yous. Yeah, it's always a good go-to, right?
Yeah. I mean, Lindsay, do any of these sound familiar from growing up? I mean, you kind of remember,
Yes.
like said, sharing is caring, right?
Yeah, my not as much that one. Of course, my parents encouraged me to share, but the use your words was
That
all
was
over my childhood. Yes, because my mom was all about articulating and getting you to speak and say what you're feeling. Um, yeah, but it's hard though. It's like a catch 22 if you don't have the vocabulary.
yeah.
Yeah, is it just yeah. So that's another
Yeah,
topic
it's
for another
complicated.
day. Yeah.
But I also wanna bring to light that this is also a good connection topic to talk to
Mhm.
people about, because you're talking about perhaps how you grew up,
Yes.
learning about somebody's childhood, or, how they feel, like, even, like, let's say you're watching a movie
Yes.
and there's a kid in the movie and you wanna make a comment on it and talk with
Yeah.
somebody about, like, how it was their childhood versus yours, and what how what were
Oh my
their
gosh.
parents' philosophies. So there's so much here.
Yeah, it's an endlessly great topic of conversation because inevitably everyone's parents parented differently. I mean,
Yep.
I've told you before on this show that my mom was a child
Yes.
psychologist. She was an academic, not an actual counselor, but she did academic research. And her whole thing was that she didn't want to dress me in the color pink because
Mhm,
because sometimes you don't know what the baby's gender is, right? They're so young, they're
mhm,
just sitting there in a bundle of clothing. And
mhm,
strangers she thought would come up to me and change their voice
mhm, mhm.
automatically if they knew I was a girl, like if I was wearing pink. And she
Yeah.
didn't want the world to reflect gender back to me, like how I should be. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
she dressed me in like reds and I don't know, browns or something,
Yeah.
non-gendered colors.
Yeah.
So that was
You've
that's
told me that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've told you that.
you've told me that, and I always, like, even to this day, sometimes I think
Yeah,
about that because that was so
yeah.
interesting to me.
It's really so this is I've had this conversation with multiple friends and then they'll
Yeah.
have some insight on their parents' upbringing, which is based on what they did in the world, right? So it's a great connection topic is what I'm saying here,
Mhm.
Michelle. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, where to? Where to,
Alright.
Michelle?
So,
Yes.
where to? So, another one is just, what do you say, right? So, like, we're saying, "Say you're sorry, say this,
Mhm.
say that," right? So, along the same lines, but if I could say,
Yes.
"Oh, that cookie is delicious. What do you say?" Right? So, to your
Yes, love
kid.
it.
Again,
Mhm.
probably the adults are not gonna say that, but but
Yeah.
you're gonna hear it.
Mhm.
Even if
Mhm.
you're like a shopkeeper or something, or you're a shopkeeper. What is this, Beauty and the Beast? Like, no, like if you're like a I don't know, if you're like a barista and you give something, you might hear a parent say that to their kid.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, for sure. I love that. What do you say? Or wait your turn, right? So, for example, oh,
mhm,
sweetie, you're cutting in line. Wait your turn, right?
mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then this is a big one, Lindsay. What's the magic word, right?
Right. Like you're going to give the kid something like a cookie, right? And trying to get kids to say please or to say
Yes.
may I please have this.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. And then I'll share one more is polite bite. Have you heard this,
Oh, I
Lindsay?
don't know that one at all. This must be a new one.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't like this. I don't like this idea. It's this idea that, you have to try I mean, it's a good idea, but I don't know. There's so much that I think about. But a polite bite is like just trying something to be polite, even if you don't
Oh.
want it. Um,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so just to be nice, just to give it a try, and it's a good idea, but then I don't know, sometimes I feel weird forcing kids to do things. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Good point. Yeah, that's tricky. Polite bite. That is a new one for me. Okay, good to know. That was not
Mhm.
around when I was growing up, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
So, but
so yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, we're talking now, not that you're going to use all these phrases, but we're also just going through some philosophies, at least in the US, that people
Hmm.
are familiar with growing up.
Yeah.
And this idea of being knowledgeable about this so that you can connect with others about
Yep.
this topic. I mean, Lindsay, I mean, what do these types of things say about parenting styles in the US? Because I wonder how this is different around the world. Like, are there similar expressions?
Yes. That would be a really good thing for our listeners to do when we finish up is go and make a list of the 4 most common phrases that kids in your culture are asked are told. And then what does that say about your culture? I mean, to me it says we're trying to build manners in our
Yeah.
children, right? Teach them manners. We're trying to teach them to share, which I think is something that kids who have siblings learn
Mhm.
faster probably than only children, right? It's kind of hard unless you're around your like my niece is an only child, but she's around her cousins all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So manners, sharing, like following the rules, showing respect, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind
Really
of building
interesting.
blocks of a society, I guess, right?
Yeah, true, true. So
Yeah.
let's show our listeners how these might be used in a conversation. And we're two friends. We're talking about our kids.
Okay,
We're
here we
not going to
go.
use everything.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Yeah. Okay.
Man, today was tough. Riley got a gift from his teacher and didn't say thank you. I told him, say thank you, but he didn't want to.
Kids are like that. I always say the typical, what do you say? Or what do you say? But
Mhm.
that doesn't always work with a 4-year old.
Oh, tell me about it. Also, Riley has trouble sharing.
Did you tell him sharing is caring?
Of course, he gets so upset. So I just say, use your words, but he's learning.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. So this would be another way this conversation you would build a connection with another parent or
Exactly.
an aunt or uncle, right? I guess aunts and uncles get the easy way out because we're not required to teach anything. We
Yeah.
just spoil the kid, take them out for ice cream, and then drop them off
Right.
back at home.
Right. Goodbye. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's go through these, Michelle.
So I'm complaining about my son, and I said I told him say thank you, but he didn't want to.
Didn't want to. And then I said, kids are like that. I always say the typical, what do you say? But that doesn't always work with a 4-year-old. Right. Of course not.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And then I'm complaining that he has trouble sharing, and you said, "Did you tell him sharing is caring?"
And then you said, of course, he gets so upset. So I just say, use your words, but he's learning. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So this is an example, a template for a conversation you might have, like I said, with another parent, maybe a
Mhm.
grandparent, right?
Mhm.
That's when you add grandparents into the mix, it becomes really interesting. What
Mhm.
is their role, right? In
Right.
teaching the
That
kid.
would be a whole other episode. Really interesting stuff there.
Yeah. So another episode, guys, to go to right now is 2381. Listen today, no pressure. Go over and
Mhm.
check that one out. Michelle, what's our takeaway for today? Dynamic episode.
Whew, yeah, there's a lot to think about here. I mean, this can from everything from this episode had a little bit of everything. One is just for maybe somebody who does have kids who wants to use some of these expressions.
Hmm.
Also for people who don't have kids, maybe they're around kids, maybe not. But this is just also a good way to learn about parenting philosophies and how things are kind of generally done in the culture in the United States. And so a good thing to perhaps start a deeper conversation with someone over.
Yeah, I love it. And then we also touched on which ones might you hear between adults in certain
Yes.
scenarios. I would be careful with that. I would listen for it and make sure you feel confident with the context. But some of these can be used between adults
Yeah.
sometimes. But we know that we're using a phrase we might say to a
Right.
child, right? We
Right.
know it, but we're taking it out of context. We're being facetious. We're playing around.
Yes.
This is high level English. Okay. Good
Yep.
stuff. All right. Very
All
nice.
right. Well, this was fun. Thanks for chatting about this with me today.
All right. Take care, Michelle. Bye.
All right. Bye.